Hello, I'm ELD. Welcome to Time Vault. Man, these spoilers just keep coming. We still have like 100 more cards to go, and they just keep piling on. Absolutely ridiculous cards. Starting out here with Ravenous Trap, actually shifted to rare, which is an interesting decision. This is gonna feel pretty bad as a rare. It's an uncommon from Zendikar. At one point was worth quite a lot of money. I don't think it is now. Graveyard cards in Modern, actually, and Pioneer flip-flopped all over the place this last year. Cards like Yixlid Jailer skyrocketed at price and then went away in the face of cards like Hagak, just terrorizing the I almost call them lesser formats. That wouldn't be the way to say it, but they weren't Legacy. Hagak in Legacy is just another one of the boys, and in Modern he proved to be just a bit too much, and people were looking for answers and they were willing to pay for them while they were in the metagame, and that is not the case anymore. Karthus, Tyrant of Jund, a low-value mythic, which is a lot of fun. The 7 casting cost, 7/7 with haste, and you steal your opponent's creatures, is really punishing in a format. If there's any type of changelings, that would be kind of a fun interaction, but for the most part, your opponent's probably not going to have too many dragons, so 7/7 with haste for 7, often going to be good enough to win a game when you cast him. Malstrom Nexus. This is a kind of commander card. Again, not super high value, but they can't all be insane. I think the EV on these boxes is going to be very, very interesting. I can't wait to take a look at that and see, based off of previous reprints and then pre-order prices. It's going to be fun to calculate. It's not going to be super obvious until we see these final cards, and even then we're gonna have to math it out and see what these boxes are going to look like. I am taking pre-orders on the site right now, and they do come with the buy a box promos. It is a really exciting set, and hopefully we will sell out of them. We didn't get nearly as much as we would have liked, so we shall see what type of support we get from the local community and you guys online. Sword of Feast and Famine, full art. Every one of these, I feel like the correct response is silence and just taking in this art. This is really cool art. The contrast in between the feast and famine, the dark and the light, is really beautiful, and a just really nice composition here. Thomas Baxa did a beautiful job on an iconic card that is sure to see play in tons and tons of commander decks. I've actually played this one in Constructed as well, in Legacy, in Stoneblade builds in the past. I have sleeved this card up, and it might be the best sword for control mirrors. The ability to untap your lands and like cast a Jace main phase, bounce their blocker, hit them, and then untap your lands with counterspell magic up is really, really gross. And making them discard a card is super powerful. Had to reread that for a second, make sure. I was like, that's what I remember it doing. For the most part, it just won the game whenever you connected with it in the type of control matchups. Fulminator Mage. Yeah, this is getting reprinted. It is just repeatedly losing value. This card took such a beating when it got reprinted, and then it clawed its way back in, and just expect this to go right down in the toilet again. It's not the type of card that people get excited about for the most part. When this price goes up, it's because it is a necessary evil to sleeve it up. And a 3-mana 2/2 is not generally super exciting stats, but that is what this guy does for you. He beats for a while and can also just destroy a non-basic land. If you really hate Tron, that is a possibility. Blood Briar, whenever you sacrifice another permanent, put a +1/+1 counter on Blood Briar. A card that could potentially see some play in, I wonder if this is downshifted. 3 mana is a bunch. I will do a video after checking out everything that's been downshifted to see if we're getting new Pauper cards. As I see this, the only use I can imagine is in Pauper Aristocrats, black-green. Actually pretty fun. We've got some videos of that recently up on the channel, as Turtle was actually playing that at our Pauper event in December, I want to say. So we're going back into the vault. We do have the new Legacy matches now. So those are actually via Discord, but we're still going into the vault to make sure every single day we've got new content for you guys to check out in fast effect. That's when we do the double speed magic. Bloodspore Thrinix. Yeah, not too much to say here. Fine card for limited. And that's about it. Kozlex Predator. A 4-mana 3/3 again, not going to be embarrassing to sleeve this one up at all in limited. Give you a little bit of ramp. It's a decent body. And if you're flickering things, you might have better things to flicker, but if you're flickering all the things, yeah, take the bonus. Mirror Smith makes me wonder if they're going to put the full cycle of Smiths in here. Justin Gennari, I believe his screen name is I am actually level 1, just won a vintage event with a sweet Riddlesmith deck. Uses a card from Kaladesh that I don't even know the name of it. It just, whenever an artifact enters the battlefield, it comes back to your hand if it's in your graveyard. So when you play Riddlesmith, you discard that card to draw a card, and then your artifact resolves, and then you get it back, and you just cycle through. It is just super cool, and I will probably be sleeving that thing up in vintage. I mean, that is a card that looked exciting when they spoiled it back in Scars of Mirrodin, and it just never was anywhere near good enough. And now we've got this new technology, and it's freaking sweet. And it's not even like that new. Like, the technology's been around since Kaladesh. People just didn't catch it, I guess. Tempered Steel. Artifact creatures you control get +2/+2. Again, not a super exciting card from a value perspective, but can be very good in particular decks. So it's going to depend how much this set gets drafted. Whether or not people are going to be excited about these inclusions. I think Wizards is starting to take a look at the way people are interacting with their products. They've gone on with this assumption that people are drafting their products. And now that they're doing set boosters, I mean, maybe these master sets are not the ideal thing for drafts. It's totally possible that they will end up changing this and make it more of a collector thing in the future. As, you know, if people really just genuinely dislike the major financial misses, then on the other side of that, I mean, if you just put in straight gas, you are going to be devaluing things significantly more. Sword and Feast and Famine, the original art there by Chris Ron. Galvanic Blast, Pauper playable card here at Uncommon. Don't let that fool you. Though it can be fun, I think, in Pauper to play decks that appear to only be uncommons and rares, or I don't think there's any downshifted mythics, but that can be fun. So this is a nice addition for Pauper players that want a card that will potentially kind of have their opponent do a double take when they play it. Merciless Eviction, a card that feels like a pretty quick reprint. This has scraped together a few dollars worth of value, which I'm not going to hold against it. Of course, this is a limited bomb, and you're going to be super happy to sleeve this up in a sealed deck or draft. But you know, these kind of reprints I'm not super thrilled about. Like, when the sets are still on the shelves, I don't know that we really need to reprint them. You can just buy a pack of, I think this is War of the Spark. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this is from one of the Ravnica sets, but I mean, it's pretty recent, I'm fairly certain. And, you know, it's like with a reprinting of Fabled Passage. I mean, you can just buy a pack of Thrones. It's not like it's not available in packs. So I don't particularly love those reprints. I would rather not see Wizards just completely gut the value of those cards, which is what tends to happen when you reprint a card that's already available in packs, is they tend to not do very well on the secondary market. Rage Reflection. All of these reflections are visually interesting, and that's just probably all you can really say about them for the most part. They are included because Wizards believes that people really like the theme of double masters and having the reflections. They're going to do the whole cycle. And Black Reflection, I can't remember the name of this one. Let me know in the comments. This one, I think this one doubles the amount of life loss for the turn. So, you know, commander playable. And this is, again, some beautiful art. This Thoughtseize, just really cool. The fairy taking that puzzle piece out of the center of this entity's forehead. Really, really cool. just enjoying this alternate arts. I really am. I mean, I think they've done a tremendous job. I know I've said it already, but I love the fact that there's options. The original Thoughtseize, just a lot of people love this art. And I think that's great. Like, you can love this art. You might like the Theros art. Now you've got this masterpiece. You've got the Amonkhet Invocation. You have your choices. Like, you've got some really good choices when it comes to sleeving up this multi-format all-star in terms of what you want the presentation of your deck to be. And I think that's an awesome thing. Ad nauseum, always been super creepy art, and I was excited to sleeve up. I actually have the entire Storm deck here that I had set aside with Peer into the Abyss and everything. I was gonna sleeve it up, and I didn't even get to the point of putting it in deck protectors. I got my beautiful dark rituals here that always catch people off guard. Those are revised, Sharpied, by the way. I've had people look at those and somehow think they're beta. They've got the black mana symbol on it, so that's not what beta looks like, but they see the black border. Anyways, Ad nauseum is just a better card, I'm pretty sure, and just a game winner. At 5 mana, it just pairs so well with Cabal Ritual. You just fire this thing off and just draw your deck and win the game. Yeah, if you got a super low life total, you'd be better off, perhaps, with the Peer into the Abyss. But, I mean, probably playing fast enough that you're going to be okay. You're going to have some life to spare. Oubliette, this is a reprint that people have been lobbying for a long time for reasons that are completely lost on me. I mean, they've said they were going to reprint it. So once that was said, I don't really see a whole lot of reason to be making noise about it. They say they'd get around to it. This does phase out a creature now, which is a little bit different. And I guess that's about it. I mean, I believe the old one exiled it, right? Like, you could probably get it with like a Rift Sweeper or something. I'd have to go back and read. But, it's an old card. I guess it's a type of errata. Maybe I'm wrong on that. But Oubliette is cool art, I guess. I like the original art. I think I like a lot of the old art, like it's from a different era, and I like the history. That's all I'll really say about the old art at this time. I do enjoy it, and I do like the fact that people will be able to pick between the different versions. Hopefully the old version won't take a massive beating now that this has been reprinted. Hopefully the original can see a whole lot of play alongside this, and people are just choosing which version they enjoy sleeving up the most. But I do really enjoy the original art, I think, significantly more than this. This is much more modern feeling and, masterfully done, but it is tough to take on the old classics. Veteran Explorer. I believe this is the reprint art from, what was that, Battle Bond, when they reprinted it the first time. It certainly has a similar feel, if it's not exactly the same. And this card, for those unfamiliar, is typically paired along with Cabal Therapy in a deck called Nick Fit for Legacy, where you are just spamming the board with basic lands and then casting just mid-range fatties. So you're talking things like Thragtusk, Massacre Worm, Grave Titan, whatever you want. I mean, you can just throw in anything. It's a green spine. Like, you've definitely got enough green, and then you've got enough black, and then everything else can be splashed. However, because Veteran Explorer can go get, like, you want double planes? Sure, go get 2 planes out of your deck. The deck is super resilient to Wasteland, and just tries to create, like, a big value game in the mid-rangey strategies. It's got discard. It's got also planeswalkers. I've seen Nick Fit heavy on planeswalkers as well for some extreme value. And I mean, it's a fun deck for sure. It's definitely something that you can enjoy sleeving up. You're ice skating uphill, but sometimes that's a type of thing you want to do with your evening. Play a deck that is just kind of wacky, and those victories feel even sweeter. Vexing Shusher. This card is a dangerous goblin, and I've seen this actually sleeved up in Vintage before. So, like, this has been Vintage playable, makes me really think about how much stronger Allosaurus Shepherd is, costing so much less mana and not requiring the activated ability. The thing to remember about this is when you go and jam your spells out there, you're basically just inviting them to try and throw a counterspell at it. You usually don't have to spend the red/green to make your spell uncounterable. So unless you're like playing into a Chalice of the Void, where you can just like power your spells through with this guy, you typically, throw out your bomb. If they've got a Force of Will, they can throw it at it, but you can just respond by paying a red or a green, and then it's uncounterable. So then they have to have another counter. So if you have more mana available than they have counters, your spell's going to resolve. And he's pretty powerful. Even if they have multiple counters, like they can only do that so many times where they're just trading multiple counters for your one card, as you're not investing any more resources aside from the mana. Progenitor Mimic, downshifted from Mythic from, is it Dragon's Maze? I think it's Dragon's Maze. One of the few cards. That poor set. It loses Voice of Resurgence. Now Progenitor Mimic. Man, like just no mercy at all for Dragon's Maze. I don't know if like Wizards just hates that set and wants to pile on, or they don't think of it as a mistake. I'm not sure what they're going for, but just leave Dragon's Maze alone for like one set. Inkwell Leviathan, I've seen this guy, 7/10 split, as a response, responded to with a Karn in Vintage. That was one of the more demoralizing defeats that I've seen way back in the day. I saw a turn 1 Tinker for Inkwell Leviathan. This was back when there were choices to be made with your Tinker target, and Inkwell Leviathan for a short while was thought to perhaps be the best option versus the Control Mirror, as it has Island Walk and Shroud, making it more difficult to deal with. You had options of Darksteel Colossus back then. You had Sphinx of the Steel Wind. You had Mirror Battlesphere. There were a few options, and the person tinkered this out on the first turn, and the workshop opponent they were playing against, who should definitely lose when you turn 1 tinker against them, just played a Karn, the original Karn, and was able to just block it for the rest of the game. Whenever he's a 4/4, that whenever he blocks, he becomes an 0/8. So that was that. That was a super disappointing game for them. When you have that turn 1 tinker in Vintage, you really... You want to win every one of those games. I mean, that's super fortunate. And when it doesn't go your way there, after it resolves even, I mean, Tinker getting forced is one thing, but Tinker resolving and you still don't get there, so that leaves scars. Darksteel Forge, artifacts you control have indestructible. This used to be one of the only reasons people played Mycosynth Lattice, is to make all of their permanents artifacts and then have Mycosynth make them all artifacts, and then Darksteel Forge just protecting them all for something like Nevril's Disc. That was kind of hated back in the day, but it's definitely way more friendly than Karn, along with Mycosynth Lattice. Darksteel Forge, I think, was actually a decent price tag, so, I mean, it'll probably tick down quite a bit, and you are not going to be happy with this one in Limited at all. 9 mana is an awful lot. I mean, if you're playing an artifact deck with a ton of acceleration, maybe there's a time that you actually sleeve this up on purpose, but it feels, for the most part, like this is not doing very much. I mean, maybe they're going to have a bunch of artifact animation effects. Turning this thing into a 9/9 indestructible could be a fun play, but, I mean, fun as a goal is not the same as winning as a goal, and sometimes when you get those wires crossed, you end up not having fun and not winning. Oblivion Stone. I'm trying to think if I've ever seen anyone sleeve this up in Legacy. It was really good in Limited. It was really good, and I expect that'll be the case here, so probably a worthy inclusion. I don't recall seeing this art before. Maybe there's a Commander printing of this with this art, but I actually don't recall seeing this art. Maze of Ith, reprinted again. This is a Commander staple, so Commander players probably going to be pretty happy about this. Previously, Maze of Ith was worth a ton. Like, the Dark Maze of Ith at one point was worth a real lot of money, and it's not seeing a ton of play in Constructed outside of Commander at this stage, so all of the mazes have really cooled off quite a bit, and I expect this will be a good time for Commander players to get their copy if they only need one, or pick up a bunch of copies if you're playing it in a ton of decks. If it's only a few dollars, I mean, Maze of Ith is potentially eternal playable card. It has seen a bunch of play in Legacy, particularly in lands. And, you know, the card's totally fine. So if it's cheap enough, I mean, Mazavith is actually a good card. Hannah, Ship's Navigator, a commander for blue-white decks, and you can pay 3 mana here to return an artifact or enchantment from your graveyard to your hand. Not too much to say here. I don't recognize the art off the top of my head, so perhaps this was... I was just checking. I think all of the Women's Day cards were actually painted by women, so I don't actually know where this art is coming from. Let me know in the comments. I'll probably look after the video and check for myself as well. If nobody cares to let me know, don't feel obligated. Ratchet Bomb, this guy does some heavy lifting, not going to be worth anything here, but does some heavy lifting in constructed formats. And just for whatever reason, Ratchet Bomb and Powder Keg have never really been able to gain any significant value in the market. Like, I believe Powder Keg was starting to creep up in price when they printed Ratchet Bomb. I mean, that's like, what is that, 10 years ago now? Back in Scars of Mirrodin. And then Scars of Mirrodin starts ratcheting up, and then they reprint it, and now they're reprinting it again. Just one of those cards that if they just left alone for a while, I'd imagine could get a decent value. But, I mean, at a certain point, I don't know how many millions of people need to be playing the game. I think they're estimating it's, 30 million or 50 million or some crazy big number. That can't go on forever in terms of the percentage growth. I mean, you'll run out of people eventually, but even just getting to the point where, 1% of the world population plays Magic is a pretty insane percentage. Avison, Angel of Hope. Again, really, really striking full art card. Kind of looks spectral. I'm not sure exactly what this card is depicting. She does have like a spectral kind of luminescence to her. I believe in the storyline, Soren straight up murders her. I think so. I think she goes a little crazy, and then instead of like helping her, he just like murders her to kind of fix the problem, so to speak. But anyways, Avacyn, Angel of Hope, a commander bomb. People love this lady in Commander. Flying, Vigilance, Indestructible, and other permanents you control have Indestructible. Now this is a wildly different thing than Darksteel Forge. Darksteel Forge does nothing on its own, whereas Avacyn is incredible on her own. She's also an 8/8 flyer with Vigilance. So this is a completely different story than Darksteel Forge, and kind of by comparison, them being in the same set makes Forge feel really bad. Like, this is a mana less and is an 8/8. Does all your permanents. There is the original art for her. Savage-born Hydra. Double Strike Hydra comes in with X +1/+1 counters, as all good Hydras do. And you can also pay 2 mana to pump extra counters onto them. Now, it's not at an instant speed. That would... it's probably a much more interesting card because of that, I would say. Being able to pay 2 mana to put a counter on as a sorcery kind of forces you into deciding how you want to use your mana. They could have somehow balanced it a little bit by being like 2 mana to put it on. It's sorcery, more mana to put it on as an instant. But, I mean, mana sinks at the end of each turn can create kind of repetitive gameplay. So I'm totally fine with the card design. I'm fine with the reprint. I think this will be good and limited and kind of push players to decide whether or not they want to invest those resources into growing their Hydra or get other cards down. Once you start sinking too much mana into this, it can be pretty disappointing for it to get removed. Though, I mean, if it sticks around for any period of time, it's probably going to dominate the board. Double Strike is an incredibly potent ability. And we're back to Ravenous Trap. So that's all of them for today, Tuesday, the 28th. Thanks for watching. We'll keep doing these. I am interested to see all of these spoilers as they're coming out, so happy to do this along with you guys. Thanks for all the positive feedback. And let me know what type of recap videos you guys are going to want to see. I think I definitely need to do the downshifted video when it's all said and done to find out what new cards are coming into Pauper. But any other videos you guys want for a recap once all the cards are spoiled, let me know. And remember, you can pre-order at eldstimevaultgames.com. The link is in the description. Thanks for watching.